I think that's about all I have. So at this time, it is my pleasure to turn over the floor to Tom Diliberti of EnergyCAP. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, Erica, and thank you everybody for joining us today. I have the pleasure of moderating today's panel with Carly and Justin. And what we wanted to do to start today is just do a quick introductions of each of ourselves. And so let me start. I am Tom Diliberti, and I've been working in the energy industry for more than 20 years. Worked with hundreds of organizations all over the country, and all of my efforts have focused on helping those organizations reduce their energy use and try to save money. A little personal note here. I love to travel. I'm an avid golfer, and I really enjoy doing home improvement in my spare time. With that as a background, a little bit about the company that I work for, EnergyCAP. What we do at EnergyCAP, if you're unfamiliar with us, is we help our clients centralize their data, control costs, and cut carbon. With that in mind, let me hand it over to Carly for a quick introduction.
Hi everyone, I'm Carly. I work at UCSD as a utility and energy analyst. I've been here since 2017. Recently, I've had some more BI come into my role, but I'm still have my old prior position of utilities and energy analyst. I grew up in Eugene, went to University of Oregon, so I think this picture is very fitting for some of my hobbies. I also love to stand up paddleboard. I love using Tableau, which is kind of the BI part of my job. And I wouldn't say raising two babies is my hobbies, but more of something I do constantly.
And Justin, could you please tell us a little bit about yourself as well?
Sure thing. So I am a financial analyst for UC San Diego. I've been here since 2023. But prior to being a financial analyst, I also worked in cost accounting. So I come from aerospace manufacturing. I've worked in consulting with the Department of Defense and then transitioned my way into higher education. And kind of some of the things that I am responsible for here at the university are financial modeling, rate analysis, budgeting, reporting for multiple departments, one of which is the utilities department. That's where me and Carly had a lot of collaboration. And so on the more personal side, I'm a reader. I like hiking, traveling as well. And I'm a San Diego native, so I'm a SDFC supporter, and I love watching soccer.
Have you made the trip up to LA for the soccer matches yet?
Not yet. I like the home advantage.
Very good. Well, hey, as we get rolling in today's webinar, one of the themes you'll hear throughout our panel discussion today is the collaboration that UCSD has had between their utilities and finance department, and just the impact it's had on their organization. And what we wanted to do is take people's temperature and find out how collaborative things are in your world. So we'd love for you to respond to the question, how collaborative is the relationship between the facilities and finance departments in your organization? So your choices are the Forrest Gump, like peas and carrots, where things are just moving along swimmingly. Would you describe it as solid? Is sharing information challenging, or would you put it in the last category where it's a struggle? But we'd love to get some feedback from you and just see those attending how things are going for you out in the field.
Lots of answers coming in here. We'll share here in a second. We can see where everybody's at. All right, let's
Yeah,
take a look.
I'm anxious to see the results just to find out what's really happening out there.
All right, there they are. Tom, can you see the results?
I can see the results.
Wonderful.
So it looks like only a participant or two has said that it's like peas and carrots. And Erica, can everybody see the results, or is it only me who can see the results? I guess it's not clear in my mind.
Should be able to, everyone should be able to see. If you can't, let me know, but you should be
Yeah.
able to.
Perfect. So it looks like many people have a solid relationship between their departments, which is awesome to see. But I'm kind of reflecting on the last two categories, where it totals up to more than 40% of the people on today's call say it's not ideal. And what we're hoping to over the next half hour, 45 minutes, is to have a conversation and share some of the stories about UCSD and just the success they've had, and hopefully leverage that information to make things a little bit better for others. So let me take us to the next slide here. And Carly, I wanted to hand it off to you to give our audience some context about the organization.
Yeah, so our main campus, which we manage on campus and then a lot of off-campus properties too. But this picture shows just our main campus at UCSD. We have on campus 761 buildings and counting. It's probably more like 770 buildings by now. Um, 3 hospitals, 30 plus offsite clinics. Our utility annual budget is 80 million and growing. And then our annual recharge operation is close to 150 million. So all that funnels through Justin and I on an annual but monthly basis. And this is where the bulk of our conversation is going to be had.
Yeah, fantastic. The other thing I think we wanted to do as we were kicking off today is give the attendees some perspective on the before and after of EnergyCAP.
Yeah, I'll speak to that one. When I came on in 2017, we were going to be adopting EnergyCAP in 2018. So I came on August of 2017. So I only had a couple months to see what it was like before EnergyCAP, and then the majority of my job has been just working with EnergyCAP. But before I came, it was everything, all our utility, all that you saw, the 80 million, it was lower then because it was prior years, but was done on spreadsheets, and it was done between two people, a finance person and then a meter reader. But he did more than just read meters, but he would, manually on paper, write down the reads, come up with the bill, pass it over finance. And that whole thing probably we were always like 2 months behind on billing. So if it was May service, we would be getting the bills out in July because of how time consuming that process was. And then in 2018, it was my job to kind of come in and implement EnergyCAP and basically take the whole operation into EnergyCAP. And, there was a minor growing pains, but all in all, we were able to basically all that whole 2 month billing cycle got condensed down to like 1 week. Our meter reader goes out, he gets the reads. A lot of it is online now, AMR reads, but uploads them, gets them into EnergyCAP. We run bill processes, bill cycles, workflow processes. All the bills are created. On the other side of it, the AP person um, is paying our bills, but we upload the bills first to EnergyCAP. So I have to sign off and review every single bill before it gets paid. Prior to that, AP and operations were like completely separate silos. They paid the bills and we never really even saw them. So they had no idea, operationally what it was supposed to be. With an $80 million budget, a bill comes in for $1 million, that's nothing. And so there was really little to no oversight into the expenses that we were paying. Um, Yeah, I think like it says here too, that meter reader role, we were basically able to completely repurpose. He's a meter reader now, but he's much more focused on supporting me and billing analysis. And I would say that our recharge bill errors have decreased by almost 100%. Like we're almost flawless in our recharge because of all that extra work and oversight that we can put into our analyses, monthly read analysis.
Yeah, Carly, that's fantastic. Thanks for that history. And something else I wanted to blend in the conversation early on here is a report that we did in EnergyCAP that we called the State of Utilities Report. And some of the information we learned, I think, is relevant to the conversation today. So I just wanted to do a real quick overview of what we did. So at EnergyCAP several months ago, we sent out a survey to both customers and non-customers. It was more than 200 participants overall. We crunched the numbers and we did this across many different industries, as you can see in the graph on the top right there, government, retail, higher education, and so on. And we also wanted to get survey results from the different seniority levels, whether it's director or individual contributor and so on, as you see in the pie chart there. So this data can be summarized in these 10 findings. And again, some of these findings, I think, meld into the conversation today. And again, that's why I wanted to bring it to your attention. Nothing on this list is necessarily a huge revelation. I think many people would anticipate these things, but I think it substantiates what many people believe. And like I say, these are the results. So 76% of the people that responded to the report said that they're seeing significant year-over-year increases in their utility costs, with 1 in 5 saying it's increasing at a rate of more than 10%. Controlling and reducing utility spend is the #1 goal for these organizations. 41% of the respondents are not fully confident in their forecasts, and better forecast accuracy is a goal for everyone. And that fifth choice there is that spend and budget variance is also top of mind. So to summarize, the first list there is that people are seeing increases and they want to get it right. The data that they're using is not quite what they need it to be in order for them to forecast and manage their facilities and their budgets very well. On the other side, the other 5 here, so 1 in 3 are not fully confident that they are going to be able to meet their energy management goals, again, because the data is not what it needs to be. That the lack of budget is a blocker for customers. Non-customers are citing that they need better data as a hurdle. 42% report a fully or mostly manual energy management approach. And finally, 70% of the energy management teams are 6 people or fewer, and 1 in 10 are a single person. So summarizing this list of 5 items, again, what organizations are saying is rates are going up. They don't have the people and the resources to do everything that they want to do. And again, tying it back to the theme of the panel, and we're going to get into the discussion now with Justin and Carly, is it's super important that teams work together using the resources they have for the benefit of their organization. So with that as a backdrop, Justin, what I'd like to do is start with you. So most finance leaders treat utility bills, and I just got to slide something out of the way here, treat their utility bills as a pass-through cost. They come in and they get paid. What's wrong with that assumption?
Yeah, so that's a great question because, like you said, most of this, typically you would think it's a pass-through cost. The cost comes in, we just kind of allocate that back out to the customers or the people who are utilizing this specific commodity. But what I've noticed, at least on the finance side, is even though we have a specific usage, there could be other costs associated with whatever commodity that a department may be utilizing that is not captured accurately, or it doesn't tie to what we have in our specific energy systems, especially if we use multiple systems, like EnergyCAP being the data system for our energy analysis. But then, for example, here at UCSD, we use Oracle as the system for finance. So if you actually want to go to the next slide, I can kind of expand on what I'm talking about, where on a monthly basis, me and Carly actually collaborate and review. This is the data that's coming in from one system versus the actual financials and what we actually build out to specific customers based on their commodity usages, based on whether it's gas, electricity, water, and not all costs get captured. So what we have to do is kind of go into this and see, okay, what utilization do these specific customers have? What cost is not being accounted for, and make sure that it gets accounted for these specific departments. So all to say, it should be passed through, but not everything gets captured.
Okay, very good. Carly, I wasn't sure if you had an additional thought to share with this particular question.
Yeah, just before we had Justin, we had like a lot of vacancy in this position. And so I was a one-man show for a long time, especially during COVID. So for me, that slide two slides ago saying that, for some people there's just one person, like I related to that a lot. And yeah, I was the energy and utilities analyst, but I wasn't a finance person at all, but I had to become one. And I had to reconcile, Justin, you said Oracle, so EnergyCAP to Oracle. Well, fun fact, we also have something called Maximo that's a work order management system in between those two. So we actually have 3 systems of record that we have um, to corroborate on a monthly basis. And EnergyCAP says one thing, Maximo says another, Oracle says another. And I lost my mind trying to, make them all match and try and figure out why. So having a finance expert come in and actually like meet me in the middle has been, one of the most helpful relationships I could imagine in this job. He speaks the finance talk, I speak the energy and utilities cost. We meet in the middle. When there's variances, we're able to pretty much, is it the ledger? Is it my numbers? So it's been the most helpful partnership I can imagine.
Fantastic. Carly, so before EnergyCAP, what did UC San Diego's utility billing process look like from a finance perspective? And then where were the gaps?
Yeah, I touched on this a little bit earlier. Finance perspective was a one-man show and it was all done in spreadsheets. Um, and then that was for like GL recharge, but the person paying the bills was actually like an admin who sat like even in a different building. And so there was like zero correlation between what we were paying, what was going out, not to mention what should be in terms of the operational aspect of it. And so there was a huge gap between what we should be paying and what we were paying.
Okay. Justin, I don't know that you had anything else to share with that particular question, or just want to
Uh,
always give you the chance to chime in. Please don't hesitate if you have other things to share.
Yeah, what I can add on to this is I will say I've been here since the after the implementation of Energy Cap, and what I will say is that that process compared to what Carly's describing is definitely a lot more seamless now, and it's more constant. So we're actually able to capture all those bills and everything that needs to get processed into our system and give us more accurate financials for whether it's forecasting or budgeting or when leadership asks questions about how have costs been looking this specific year or what do we anticipate costs to be. But yeah, I could say it's been nicer on my end because it's been post Energy Cap.
Awesome. One of the great successes you had was this huge recovery, and I wanted to give you guys a chance to kind of celebrate that with the attendees here. But walk us through the $1 million water bill recovery. What were the circumstances, and how did you find it? And without the system you had in place, realistically, what would the outcome of that bill have been? Talk us through that a little bit, if you could, Carly.
Yeah, so I don't know about you all, but like, and we're a utility too, so I'm very sensitive to this, but like mistakes happen. Vendors make mistakes, whether it be estimated read or just a full up error. We work with, I don't want to call out vendors, but like we notice a lot of mistakes in our vendor utility bills. And so one time, a huge leak sprung and in a water main, and it was on the side that the water vendor was responsible for it. However, they billed UCSD for it. And this was actually right after we had switched over to our new process of uploading. So bills don't get paid until they run across my desk, meaning they go through EnergyCAP. Because we upload a batch of bills, I'm able to just pull up that batch and easily do, quick variance check and then sign off on them and say, okay, pay. Um, so I saw this $1 million water bill come in and compared it to, what it should be the prior month, which was like 32,000. And that was just an instant, like, wait, is this a typo? Like, what's going on? And so I pulled up the actual bill, and sure enough, we dug down, we called them, and it was, you know, nope, that was on your side, that's not ours. And so it took months to get that credited, but nonetheless, we were able to, we never paid it, and we were able to, you know, keep that cost away. Now, had that bill not come across my desk, I can almost guarantee AP would have just paid it. $1 million is nothing when you have an $80 million budget. So they didn't know operationally what that meter should be. They didn't know what it was for. They're not looking at like month over month. They're just paying bills and getting them off their desk, and paid. And so that was like a huge win for us because that's a very large dollar amount.
I'll say, just out of curiosity, how long did it take to actually get the recovery? Were you able to find the mistake and submit a request or an email, whatever that response was, and you saw it within a matter of weeks, or did you have to kind
No.
of fight to
We
get
had to
that?
fight. We had to fight. Unfortunately, working with that vendor specifically, we've had endless amounts of issues. So, even though they acknowledged that, it was on their side of the meter and theirs to be had, they didn't issue the credit for, honestly, I think it was even like the next fiscal year. So,
Wow.
but we just didn't pay it. We just kept it as, the past due balance and only paid current. So,
Yeah. What I'd offer to the other attendees in the webinar is that because I've worked with many organizations, what you experience is not wildly uncommon. It seems like it happens to many organizations. And the other thing that I guess I'd offer is that there are many water companies I've encountered around the country that will forgive some events. Like if you have a leak that's unexpected and it hasn't happened in a while. And so the advice that I'd offer is if, particularly with water, if you have an unusual water event, don't just concede and pay a bill, particularly one that's outrageous like this one. Dig into it, and at times you will get these companies to forgive these big events. So just know that if you haven't run into that yet in your travels. So next question I want to do, Justin, I think we want to throw this one your way, but beyond that one incident, what other billing areas or anomalies have you caught that finance would have maybe otherwise absorbed?
Yeah, so I actually have a more recent example on this. I want to say about a month or two ago, when we were reconciling our monthly report to present to leadership on specific forecast for commodities, I had to do a year-over-year comparison from our financials, specifically the commodity costs at this point in time compared to last fiscal year. And what I found out was one of the months we were currently observing was it had a very huge variance year over year. We're talking about costs spiking about maybe 187%
Wow.
for one of the gas costs that month. And what was really nice about being, well, not nice about the bill, but what was nice about having EnergyCAP is that we were easily able to identify the specific work order that was tied to, look up that specific meter associated with that work order in EnergyCAP, and it was giving us the not even year over year, but also month over month data, and we could see that there was a clear spike in that specific month, and I'm able to then reach back out to Carly and reconcile and say, okay, what's going on here? And it happened to be that it was a shared meter, and one of the sub meters happened to feed all that information into our end, and we ended up paying basically capturing the cost for more than what it typically was. But capturing that in that specific point in time before the month closed, we were able to make the correction, get that out of the way, and not have about a $2 million variance hit for that specific month, and go back to leadership and be like, hey, it was just an anomaly. We're good to go, and we can correct the variance.
Wow, that's a great story. Thanks for sharing that.
Of course.
What about this next question? So UCSD generates roughly 1,500 internal chargebacks per month. What did that process look like before automation? And what does accurate cost center allocation actually mean for your financial reporting? Justin, you want to start with this one, or Kylie? I think you probably both have some thoughts here, but Justin, I think this one's coming your way.
Yeah. So before automation, I can't answer that portion of it, but for the accurate cost center allocation, what it means for us is at least having a good baseline for our financial numbers. Like I said, this is just not just the data that we use for our current fiscal year, but it's what we're actually going to utilize to forecast for out years, especially when we have budget discussions, whether it's with our area, our specific vice chancellor area at the university, or other vice chancellor areas. They want to know what are the rates going to be for utilities. So having accurate cost center allocation for us means having accurate numbers that we can then share with other departments and help them understand this is what the costs are going to look like in not just next year, but in the next couple of years. And
Yeah,
then we are mandated to also share rates with them for, I believe it's 5 years out.
yeah. Carly, do you have anything to add to this one?
yeah, kind of a more like recent mandate, I guess, if you will. So we get funding from the state to cover our core funded buildings. So since we're a university, we have a lot of research labs, and all those are funded by the state. However, with budget cuts recently coming down, top down from the federal, and just the kind of current financial climate that we're in, we've been mandated to cut that core spending for core buildings by like 2%. So close to like 2 million is what we need to come up with next year, all in one year. Um, so that is like a perfect blend of, you know, operations with finance, because we're going to need to really look at that core number and figure out, how we can reduce energy, because it all comes down to energy savings,
Sure.
which we're going to be implementing and really trying to get a team together to go in there and do a lot of HVAC work and all that kind of stuff. But having Justin in those meetings, like it's not all operational, because let's say what we see is we're reducing, but he comes in and he says, no, on the ledger, the core budget, because that is what all that matters is what the ledger says, not what I think it should say. He could come in and say, actually, I'm not seeing savings and we got to figure out what the heck's going on. Did something hit that work order, that state work order that shouldn't? Is there something somewhere else happening? And so having him a part of this is going to be just as crucial as having the operations team. Um,
So I have to ask the obvious question: how optimistic are you that you're going to make the 2%? Is it
ooh,
does it or 2 million, I guess? Is that seem possible? Is that
it,
or what are
it,
your thoughts, your instincts?
I'm currently building baseline dashboards right now for EUI for every single core building. And it's going to be tough too because supposedly we're headed into an El Nino year down here, and that means hot, wetter. I think I'm getting that right. Wetter, wet, hotter, hots. Um, so they're not asking. We can't normalize for weather and say, oh, it was because of the weather. We need like true savings. So I'm a little concerned about that. But I don't want, there's so much opportunity. That's a whole other webinar, but there's so much opportunity for just working with our HVAC team and the controls and the settings. There's so much opportunity for energy efficiency and savings that if we can get the right like formula down and team in place, uh, get rid of overrides, there's a whole book of things we can be doing. If we can do that, then we can make the 2 million. I know we
Yeah.
could. It's
Yeah,
just
I was
in
just to
one
say
year.
my experience working with the organizations is typically the waste is there. The opportunity is there. It's
Yeah.
it's coordinating the
Yeah.
teams and it's using the data and telling the story and just getting everybody on the same page. So that's
Well, the
that's
data is
great.
going to be, yeah, absolutely crucial. Absolutely
Yeah.
crucial because and it's all coming from EnergyCAP. So
Yeah. Very good. So next question. For finance leaders whose utility costs are pooled or allocated manually, what are they likely getting wrong without knowing it? Justin, any thoughts there?
Yeah, so I think something that they might be getting wrong without knowing it is the exact cost or the exact usage that maybe each different, whether it's department customer, is actually utilizing, especially if there are specific meters that may be servicing multiple areas. And I think that's where Energy Cap comes in and actually helps distinguish between that and help us answer certain questions for, what is their usage? How much do we anticipate them to be expending in the next couple of years, and this will kind of help us get a more accurate gauge on what the costs are for each different area.
Yeah, for sure. And you know what, Carl, let me just kind of go back to this one because I know we've kind of queued up the next slide. You wanted to make some comments on that. So I wasn't sure if you wanted to have other additional thoughts on what Justin has offered so far, but I do know in preparation for the webinar, we plan to kind of have this as a tool for you to reference.
yeah, I think, moving, not just for finance leaders, but if you look at using this, new energy efficiency project as an example, it's really important for us to know what the budget is, not at the department level, but at like not even the work order level, like the building level, because it's really important for us to prioritize, what buildings have the most opportunity, because not all buildings are equal, right? There are some lab spaces that have research going on that, we cannot touch. Like they absolutely need, X amount of air coming in at this rate, blah, blah, blah. So having a more granular level of budgeting, that rolls up into the, 80 million or whatnot is crucial in making operational decisions on what buildings we should tackle. Where should we spend our time? What's worth it? What's not worth it? Instead of just looking at all as one, whole, you got to really piece out, where you want to put your efforts.
Absolutely. And how about this next question? You cut your billing cycle from 4 weeks to one. Carly, you had mentioned that how we kind of reduced that. What does that mean for your close process and your ability to report in period? And
Mhm.
so I think it probably affects both of your worlds in some ways, I
It
assume.
does. Yeah. I'll start real quick. Do you want to go back to that slide of
Yeah,
my
sure.
screenshot?
Yeah, yeah,
So, as I mentioned earlier, now that I have Justin, it's great, but we still have three systems to reconcile. The meter charges are tied to the work order and energy cap. That all goes into Maximo. The work order then matches with a chart of accounts, and then that all goes to Oracle. So when a customer comes and they ask, Justin, like, why is my project showing, X amount of charges? We gotta like there was a lot of tracing we had to do manually back to like what that actual meter was. But what I did is we created a on our own personal server at UCSD, we created like a data lake is what we're calling it, where we were able to take the back end data of all of our energy cap, all of our Maximo, and all of our Oracle data and blend it seamlessly into one, congruent line. So now this auto populates as soon as data is populated in, the systems of record. So we don't have to get this out. We sent this out earlier this year, and it's a standardized campus report. No longer are we having to pull, manual. Med Center wants it to look this way. Housing wants it to look this way. We streamline this all. So this is, I mean, this basically is almost live as can be for the data once it hits all the different system of records. So
Yeah,
that's been a huge,
and,
yeah,
and
go
to
ahead,
expand on
Justin.
that, I mean, my personal experience, it's like I've had to manually get these reports ready, extract the data, get it cleaned up, and everyone had different views that they wanted for it. But now it's like this is live data. They're able to actually, it's like a self-service report. They're able to just go in here and reach this whenever they desire to come get this report. This would be more accurate because with the manual reports, the data's static. This is actually coming directly from the system.
From the
yeah.
source.
Yeah, this looks awesome. Just out of curiosity, do you feel this is a finished product right now, meaning that in its current state, it'll kind of be used from this point forward in this way, or does it have the potential to evolve and change? Like, do you see a benefit for it evolving in any way?
Yeah, I think the financial piece, this will feed the finance people. They will be happy with this. I don't think this needs to go, this is a finished product. But we do need to expand on, the energy managers who are more interested, which is kind of what I'm creating on the side right now, who are more interested in just straight usage, straight energy, no cost assigned. They want to see, how their buildings are doing energy wise. So there is room for that type of expansion, which I think they should be linked, right? It's ultimately
Sure.
the same data set. It's just how do you want to see it? So I am building out a more energy focused dashboard.
Very cool. So let me take us to this next question. So one full-time position was freed up from manual meter reading and data entry. How do you quantify that kind of efficiency gain for a finance audience that needs to build a business case? Any thoughts on this? Because many people are, they're trying to manage their teams, they're trying to offset costs and drive their overall spend down. But this is a challenge for many people, is just trying to make a business case or turn these benefits in something that's quantifiable. Any thoughts, Carly or Justin, on this question?
I can go. One of the things we love about EnergyCAP is the audits. EnergyCAP has an amazing audit system that we were once doing manually, and now it's all just, at the click of a button. So the audit, so this is mainly for, well, it's for both AP, but mainly we use it for our GL. When I said, earlier that our billing errors have almost reduced by 100%, meaning we very rarely have them, whereas before, ooh, I can't tell you how many times, we had errors slip through because meters roll over if we don't catch it, when it's all manually done in spreadsheets and all that, it's so easy to miss, and even if it's a small read to that customer, that might be, a big deal. So using the audits that enter the audit flags, so it'll basically look at, all your data. It'll, at the meter level, it'll normalize it and then it'll compare, year over year using X amount of history and then month over month. And then you can also set, there's like, I don't know, maybe 20 different audit flags. You can tune up the, um, how strict you want it to be versus how lenient. You can turn off flags. So you can really customize it to how you want it to be. And that in itself, I mean, quantifiably, it's hard to know, but if we could find, the quantifiable billing errors, if we could quantify that, which I'm sure we could, that in itself is a pretty, good business case.
Yeah. It's just one of the challenges, I think, where people can anticipate and expect benefit occurring by changing some things, but many times it comes down to dollar and cents, and it's just trying to turn that into numbers so people can see some type of return on investment. Justin, do you have any thoughts on this one? I just, again, just want to not to exclude you from the conversation if you have some thoughts to share.
Yeah, so definitely, going back to how ECAP does a lot of this stuff automated and can actually assist with having more accurate data. From a finance point of view, I'm thinking, one full-time position that's associated with labor costs and what you would typically do with maybe that all that manual meter reading and what that effort was put towards that can now be put towards other areas thanks to utilizing EnergyCAP. And maybe instead of hiring two people, now we only need one because EnergyCAP is that good at helping us capture that data. So we can relieve that effort and move it towards something else, or maybe some more strategic approach for whatever the department needs, or some new focuses. So I think that would be, and then quantifying how much labor and time savings that comes with is what we would need to then bring that back to the finance to say, look, this is actually helping and we are saving money because of it.
Great. So we all recognize how AI has begun to affect our world in so many different ways. So I was curious to ask you, how is AI impacting your role and responsibilities? Would love to get both of your input on this. Justin, let me start with you. Have you seen a big impact with AI in your role?
Yeah, so I would say it's not to the point where it's replacing, some of the pivotal functions in the role, but it's very complementary, is what I'll say. Especially in finance, when we're trying to get whether it's budgeting, forecasting, making sure that we got accurate costs. AI was going to be very complementary to ensure that maybe we're able to input this into our models or implement some AI in our processes, where then now there's less manual effort that has to go into some of our month-to-month processes. So for me, per se, it hasn't affected too much, but I do see it becoming something that's going to be increasing on the horizon for us operationally.
Sure. And Carly, what about you?
Yeah, I would echo that for for me and my job. I mean, a lot of what I do is operations and that can't really be replaced by AI. But in terms of like reporting and whatnot, um, I would say, so far it's been more BI rather than AI. UCSD is really wanting to push AI, but there's also a lot of, IT and hoops you have to jump through in order to really implement an AI agent to, go into all your stuff and actually start doing, meaningful work. So as of right now, it's not impacting me too much other than like personally, make this email sound nicer and little things that I do. And if anything, it's been somewhat frustrating actually with AI being such a, top-down approach. I'm not against AI at all for the record, but hearing, leadership say like, well, can't you guys have AI do this? We need to make layoffs. Like, let's just have AI do this. Just kind of that type of thinking when it's like, just, you know, there's so much that needs to go into setting all that up. And
Sure.
so, I embrace it in the sense that, it's here and we need to use it. And I think if we can use it responsibly, we will. But we're not quite there yet, at least at UCSD, even though
Okay.
management leadership thinks we should be.
Yeah. What's interesting is each of your responses are very in line with what I hear from talking with others, where it's people sense it's coming down the pipe. It's going to have an effect at some point, but it just hasn't really had a significant role just yet. But I think we recognize it's coming. Another question here. If a CFO in the audience is skeptical that utility data management is a finance problem, what would you tell them?
So this one is interesting because I think the fact that someone can think that utility data management and is not a finance problem, they're so joined together that it's like if I can't rely on my finance data if I can't rely on my energy utility data management. So at that point, I think it's the equivalent of saying if you have someone who's in operations, you're not gonna just not do the accounts payable portion or make sure that bills get paid or that we receive checks in, and just do the operations. Like all of it is part of one process to make sure that everything is accurate and tracked. So I would tell them utility that data management is definitely a finance problem, especially if the data that we're using and relying on is not accurate. So the most important thing is making sure that a system's set up to capture everything accurately and make sure that we are charging the correct amount to the specific departments.
For sure. I'm in total agreement.
Yeah.
What about this question? What would you do differently if you were starting this from scratch today? So, Carly, you've kind of been with us for longer than Justin at UCSD. So, if you had a chance to reflect on your time, what would you do differently?
Hmm. It's a good question. I didn't prepare anything, or if I did, I forgot. So let me think. I mean, I think the way we've done things in terms of like adopting EnergyCAP, because we kind of went all in, right? We got like all the modules. If we're going to use EnergyCAP, we're going to use it, right? So I would say in terms of our EnergyCAP adoption and enrolling all our meters, that piece of it I think has been great and seamless. If we were to do things differently, we would have pushed for AMR, automatic meter reading meter. I mean, that's more on like definitely the metering and operation side, but we would have pushed for that a lot sooner because that's made, lives so much easier. Who wants to go out and read, thousands of meters manually? Um, but that takes, a budget. You need a lot of money to replace those meters out. But it would have been worth it had we done it sooner because we're just now at about like 90%, I think, of all our meters to be AMR. And then secondly, I probably would have, as I mentioned, we have our own data warehouse where we get to extract all the data from our systems and it becomes ours and we can use it however we want. I would have done that a lot sooner because having ownership over that data and the ability to, blend it and do whatever you need with it has been really helpful to our whole organization.
Yeah, very good. And I know, Justin, your time has been less with UCSD, but what about you? Just reflecting your time, any things you would do a little different?
I think for me personally, and I'm actually seeing the chat here, one of the questions is what advice do you have for university that recently adopted EnergyCAP? And I would say this answer applies to both of these is make sure that your systems are talking to each other. So making sure that EnergyCAP and all that data that's coming from there to whatever financial system you're utilizing actually translates correctly and that there isn't so much as a gap when we're translating data from one data set to another financial system. So that's the only thing I can think of. But Carly's definitely got more of that experience on starting from scratch with implementing the system. For me, like I said, I got all this after everything's been implemented already.
Yeah. So I think that kind of takes us to questions. And so, Eric, I don't know if you want to come back in and see if there's already some questions in the chat, but we wanted to allocate some time here at the end and just see if the audience wanted to ping some questions to Carly and Justin.
Yeah, there's a couple sitting here, and I don't know if either of you wanted to expand on either of the two that Justin kind of started to cover, but the newest one we had come in the Q&A is how do you get data utility? How did you get data utility company and own it? Was it easy to receive them? How to make sure that we always receive data without interruption? If one of you could help me, interpret that and answer as you see fit.
I think they're talking about the bills? is that how you guys would interpret that? We and we utilize if that's the case, how do we get the utility data right from the companies in the form of bills? EnergyCAP has bill capture, which I would highly recommend using. People who don't use bill capture are just having headaches for the end of their life. No, use utility data from yes, I think you mean in the form of bills, if I'm interpreting that correctly. EnergyCAP has a bill capture feature that will scan either if you get paper bills, they will scan them and upload them into EnergyCAP. Um, and then they have something called EDI, which if the vendor allows it, all your bills come in electronically. So we have basically just batches of bills that are coming in every day, whether they be PDFs, the scanned, because some we have to have paper bills for some of our bills, or they come in, EDI, and that we don't have to do anything there. We just get the bills in on a daily basis and have access to all that data, and then you can run reports or look at the power views and see, it's as seamless as can be.
Yeah.
And I can actually take that the other question Amy had regarding the larger team. So on a monthly basis, what I do is I set up a meeting with the utilities operations, including me, Carly, the director of utilities, and then also the manager at the central utilities plant. And we kind of all discuss the energy costs, review the data, but also kind of check in on if there's any unanticipated costs that might be popping up or any we'll call it maybe like anomalies or variances that are more higher than usual. And just kind of chat and talk about that on a monthly basis, but reviewing to make sure that we're still in line with our budget and not having to go super over and kind of add comments there.
Had
Great.
another question come in from Nellie, who says, what does your transfer of data from EnergyCAP to Oracle and Maximo look like? Export, import, software transfer, etc.
Yeah, this one's still a little like, I don't want to say archaic, but we basically export all the data from EnergyCAP into a CSV. Well, actually, it comes out as a text file first, and then we have EnergyCAP built us a reformatter that reformats that data and makes it importable into Maximo. So that all goes into a CSV. Then we hand that CSV off to the Maximo team, and they upload it into Maximo. Then that I'm not exactly sure, but I think it's a manual transfer. Justin, do you know how the data gets from Maximo to Oracle?
Yes, for Maximo to Oracle, it would be another upload. And we have specific people on our end, whether it's the AP people or another financial analyst who basically takes that data from Maximo, extracts it, and then uploads it directly through Oracle. So we have a thing called an RMP recharge app, and that helps us kind of make sure that we post that to all the specific different projects that need to get recharged out within the university.
So the meter is tied to a work order. The
Mhm.
work order is tied to a project and task or chart of accounts in
Yep.
Oracle. So that's kind of that lineage.
Yeah. And then what we take then is what's actually in Maximo and compare that to the actual cost that we have by work order and see if there's any discrepancies. And if they are, we go back to Carly or back to ECAP to see where the discrepancy lies. Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good.
There was another question that came in, and maybe Carly and Justin, you could take a look at that one and see if, again, you want to address those specifics or
Yeah, I can let me explain this one because, right, that looks like we're making a huge profit. So 80 million is our annual utility spend. That's what we pay for the utilities. We have a cogeneration plant, so we buy natural gas and then we create electricity. We distribute then the electricity, chilled water, high temp out to our campus. And the 147 million is the amount we get back from recharging them out all those utilities. However, we're not making a profit. We are, a break-even organization. So what we came up with like a utility rate model. So in those meetings that Justin was saying that we have, with our directors and utility plant operators, so baked into our electricity rate is so much more than just what we pay for electricity. It's not a one-to-one. We have we're like a fully self-funded unit. So we have our salaries, we have all our deferred maintenance projects, we have our planned maintenance projects, we have our, debt service, like everything is built in to, so what you're not seeing is that that delta between the 80 million and the 147 million. That delta goes to all this other stuff that's funded by our utility program.
And the 80 is pretty much baked into that 147. So it's part of that. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Great response and great clarity just to help people understand that. That's great.
Makes perfect sense. Thank you. Tom, I know you had a few other things you wanted to mention before we start to wrap up today, so I think now would probably be a good time to start to move on to those.
Yeah, so let me jump to the next slide. What we want to do is give people some awareness, just provide these dates, put these dates on people's calendar if they're interested. But we have some upcoming webinars and some events. One next week on June 24th. I'm going to do a webinar and speak on AI. And the theme is your utility data ready for AI? And I want to give you some insight next week with that. In early July, we are moving on to another webinar, and it's titled Beyond the Mandate, Using Benchmarking to Improve Building Performance. It's part of our internal webinar series that we do here at EnergyCAP. And also for anybody that's on the call that might be an EnergyCAP user already, just want to remind people about our Catalyst conference that's coming up in September, in mid-September. And we also wanted to include a couple poll questions here for anybody that may have listened today and wanted to learn a little bit more information about EnergyCAP. We wanted to give you the opportunity to respond to this so we can reach out to you. So thank you, Erica, for putting up
We've got some takers here, so I'll give the poll just a few more seconds to be live so everyone has a chance to respond if they wish.
Perfect. Thank you for that.
And of course, we're always here either through APA or directly to EnergyCAP for folks to reach out directly if you'd like more information. So I'm going to close the poll for now, but definitely don't feel like that's a closed window to reach out.
Yep. And then we had one other poll question. We have an internal group here at EnergyCAP. It's called our Eco Champion Community. We wanted to invite people into that, whether you're an EnergyCAP user or not. We invite everybody in because we want to use this as a mechanism for sharing information and helping others do better with their energy conservation strategies and techniques and so on and so forth. So we want to invite everybody into our Eco Champions community if you're looking for another resource of learning.
And I will say that's been a really helpful community to be a part of, because a lot of times you don't need to recreate the wheel. Someone else is already doing what you want to be doing, so you can meet with them on the side or work with, everyone's really willing to help and share information in that group. So
fantastic. And I think that takes us to the end of our slides. Eric, I don't know if you have any final words to kind of summarize and close things out, but I personally just want to thank everybody for attending today, and thank you, Carly and Justin, for your insight and your time today and sharing a lot of great thoughts for people to consider. So thank you both for attending today and being part of the panel.
Yes, thank you both as well from APA. We had a great session today with lots of wonderful content. I'm sure we'll get many who choose to view the replay on Vimeo, which is my closing reminder. If you do want to check that out, we'll have it up within 24 hours on our Vimeo page. Also on our professional development page at appa.org, you can link to that or any of our past webinars to rewatch. So again, thank you all for joining us today. Thanks to EnergyCAP and thanks to our to their partners from UC San Diego, Justin and Carly, for joining us today. Like I said before, if you have any questions or would like any follow-up from any of these three folks, please feel free to reach out directly to them or to us here at APA, and we can definitely connect you. So take a peek at the APA events calendar too when you have a moment. We always have fresh new content coming up on upcoming webinars, so we look forward to seeing you at another one in the future. Thank you to our hosts, and thank you again to everyone who attended. We'll see you soon. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.
bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you.